Grace and peace to you, from God our Father, and from our Lord Jesus Christ. So you're all familiar with the 5-second rule, right? If you drop some food on the floor, as long as you pick it up within 5 seconds, it's okay to eat. It's safe. I've always followed the 5-second rule. In fact, I follow more like the 25-second rule. If it's edible, it's still edible, even if you dropped it on the floor. Nevertheless, I was always told to beware of germs. And you know, you could get sick by doing something like that. So I'm reminded of a story of a young girl that was helping mom with Thanksgiving dinner. So she's carrying the platter of turkey in, and she trips. She goes into the dining room, and the turkey rolls off the platter and onto the floor. And mother says, "Oh, that's all right, sweetie." She says, "Just go back in the kitchen and bring out the other one." Of course, there was no other turkey, but the 5-second rule applies in these things. And I don't blame them, because it's either turkey that's rolled around on the floor or it's hot dogs for Thanksgiving dinner. So that makes it okay. So it's interesting that this should come up today about eating with defiled hands and washing and all of that sort of thing. Apparently, it was the custom of the Jews to very meticulously wash everything. Now, folks back then didn't understand anything about germs, but the rabbis did have a concept that there needed to be some cleanliness, that you could spread disease if it were not for that. And for that reason, they made the idea of washing a religious ritual. Because they knew if they just told people to wash, they probably wouldn't do it. But if they made it a religious issue, they would. And so over the years, they had developed this rather elaborate process of washing everything: pots, pans, dishes, as well as hands, and even the food before you serve it. It was just the right thing to do. Except that they goofed up. It was good that they were washing things, but where they goofed up is they began to believe that that was really the focus of what they were about. They turned it into an end in itself. So the idea of washing becomes a religious issue, which could be done correctly or incorrectly. It became a tradition. Not all traditions serve us well. And sometimes traditions are downright negative for us. And so we're reminded that we have to look beyond just the immediate tradition. Look at the meaning of this. That's what Jesus was doing. Now, it's kind of interesting. I always wonder if Jesus kind of engineered this thing on purpose. You know, he has a bunch of fishermen that are his disciples, and I'm sure their hands weren't particularly clean if they'd been fishing. And here they come, ready to divide the food and start eating, and none of them wash. And the religious folks are horrified by that. All the good and righteous people, they're horrified. They're not following the tradition. They forget the reason for washing is cleanliness, not a religious. It wasn't a religious practice. It was necessary for cleanliness. So they question Jesus about that. And Jesus uses that, not surprisingly, as a teaching moment. This is a chance for Jesus to explain really what it's about. Don't lose focus. Don't lose focus on things that don't matter. Look instead to the things that are important. The problem with concentrating on washing as a religious issue is that you forget the gospel. We lived by the gospel. And they were missing it entirely because they were so focused on maintaining that tradition. It's not that traditions are bad. It's that they don't always serve us well when we turn them into religious experiences. So I heard a story about a congregation that was kind of mired in tradition. It was a new pastor. He just replaced a pastor who'd been there for years and years. The pastor had retired. This was the new young pastor right out of seminary. And he realized that he didn't know all of the traditions of the liturgy. Every congregation is a little bit different. They have some different practices. So he wasn't sure exactly how to handle that. And he realized that one of the first things he didn't ask about was whether it was the tradition to stand or sit during the mid-service hymn. And in this case, right before the sermon. Do people stand or do they sit? Well, what he found out was that when it came time, he figured, I'll just see what happens. And so the organist starts the introduction to the hymn, and half the people on the gospel side of the church stood. The other half of the people on the lectern side all sat. Well, that's kind of strange, but the organist finished the introduction, and just when he started to sing, the people on the pulpit side started yelling at the people who were sitting down. Stand up, they said, stand up. People who were sitting down go, sit down, sit down. It's terrible, the awful church argument. Stand up, sit down. The young pastor was horrified. The whole process repeated itself for several weeks until finally the young pastor decides to check with his predecessor. Maybe we can give us some wisdom or insight into how to handle this. So he went to the previous pastor's house and sat down with him. He said, I'm really beside myself. I said, I need to know what the tradition is. He said, at that special sermon hymn, do people stand? No, the pastor said, that wasn't our tradition. Oh, okay, then they sit. No, he said, that wasn't our tradition. And the young pastor said, well, I don't know what to do. They yell at each other. Stand up, sit down. The old pastor said, that was our tradition. So here we are, a Lutheran in an Anglican church. Not exactly sure quite how to do things, but we're pretty similar, so it kind of, but I can't quite kick it into automatic pilot like I do on Sunday morning. So there may be some things that are a little bit different from what the Anglican folks are used to, and probably some stuff that the Lutheran folks are also not quite used to. Holy Communion is going to be one of those things. You know, the Anglicans use a common cup. Lutherans, did you know that? They drink from the common cup. Anglicans believe in the 5-second rule. Lutherans are always concerned about getting the plague, so we use these plastic cups because that's sort of our tradition. So we could argue about that. You know, the Lutherans could say, use the cups. And the Anglicans could say, get a grip, just drink from the cup. Nobody's ever gotten a disease from a communion cup. And we could argue back and forth. We could argue so much that we can't even worship together because of that. That could be something that's divisive. And wouldn't that be a shame? Holy cow, we filled a church on Labor Day Sunday. What a blessing this is, to be together and to be able to look beyond any kind of petty differences and receive a blessing of God. I'm sure that this day pleases God to see us gathering today together and worshiping together and upholding one another in prayer. What a blessing that is. And it says something not only to our congregations, but to our community. That we are one church. One church with different denominations and different traditions. Some believe in the 5-second rule, some are more cautious. But we are one church. And we would miss that blessing if we got embroiled in some kind of an argument about how to do something. So just to ease all your minds, we're going to do it both ways. We're going to have both a common chalice and a pouring chalice. So you can commune either way that makes you the most comfortable. And some of you can even press the envelope and maybe try a different way today. And that's kind of exciting for me. The one change we're going to make from the way the Anglicans are used to, we're all used to coming up to the rail and kneeling. We're going to do it a little bit differently. If you were here last week at Emery Grove, we're going to do it like we did at Emery Grove, when we come down the aisle and we receive, I'll serve the host, and then you go on either side and receive the chalice. And we'll have both a pouring chalice and a common chalice on either side. So we're going to do it that way. My father, who never liked that way, he liked to come up to the altar. He always called that drive-by communion. And, so we're going to do it that way. He would have complained if he were here today doing it that way. But we're going to do it that way so we can best accommodate everyone. And that's good. That's good because it's a blessing to be together. This is the feast of the universe. This is the feast which nourishes us spiritually for another week. This is the feast that reminds us that Jesus is present in that bread and wine through the body and blood, through his body and blood. And in this sacrament, we commune with Jesus just as surely as he was with us on the night in which he was betrayed. And so today we celebrate that as one church, as one congregation. And there is a blessing beyond all blessings in that. What a joy it is to be together. What a joy it is to share in this moment. And it could all be lost if we got embroiled in some minor details. God wants to free us from that. God wants to free us from the things that separate us and make us one. God wants to free us from those things that divide us and help us to see the unity that we really truly have. May God bless us all. May God bless both congregations today. And may the peace of God, which passes all human understanding, keep your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.